You're listening to the Wrigleyville Nation podcast. Season ticket holders and lifelong fans with neighborhood ties discuss Cubs news and neighborhood happenings. Here's your hosts, Jeremy and Pat.
Hello and welcome to the Wrigleyville Nation podcast. This is episode 295 of the podcast. My name is Jeremy Deemer and I'll be your host. And I'm joined as always by my co-host. He's my cousin and he's high atop Wrigleyville tonight. How's it going, Pat?
Crucial week, playoff-wise, for the Cubs.
That is not the case.
Well, it is the case because if they lose, I think, one more game, they're probably out of it, right?
The race to the bottom didn't go very well last week, losing 2 out of 3 to the Reds. So they're on the right track to try to get in that bottom 5, but that's the playoffs that we're playing for.
There's work to be done then, if that's the goal.
That's got to be. It's got to be the goal, and going 6 for 15 in their last 21 games.
Good effort.
Good effort, and dropping 2 out of 3 to the Giants this past weekend as well. So the Cubs. Not a ton to talk about on the field, but we do have news around baseball. We've got rule changes. We do have some Cubs injury notes to talk about as well. And to help us talk Cubs tonight, friend of the program, you know him from his stand-up comedy. He's the host of the Away Games podcast. Kevin McCaffrey, thanks for taking time to talk Cubs with us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Episode 295, only 293 without me. So I feel like right. This is pretty good. This is I'm flattered to get the return call.
And this time you are in a car on the road. And just to put you in other good company, the last time we did a podcast where the guest was driving in their car, it was Dakota Mikas was a guest on our podcast. So you're in good company.
That is good company. Fellow podcast host.
Yes.
Dakota. That's pretty good.
Hopefully we'll see you again within the next 3 years, though. We haven't seen him, but
I was gonna say you guys we've actually seen each other in person once, so that's probably ahead of Dakota in that way a little bit. But yeah, that's a good get. He's a good get baseball wise and also just talking wise. And I'm glad to hear someone else that a legitimate person has been on via the car. Cause I know, I feel like when it sounds like you're in the car, I feel like it gives you almost the accent of a sports talk radio guy. So calling in. So I feel like I should be yelling about these guys making too much money and they're not hustling hard enough. And I love Mr. Ricketts.
Bring up all the kids. Let them play. Let the kids play.
They can't be worse. I hate everyone who's ever done good things for my team for some reason. I'm a sports talk radio caller.
We do have some Ricketts talk to get to as he did an interview on Saturday. So we will go through some of those amazing quotes. And we do have rule changes. That's the other part I want to get to. We'll start with, let's start with Ricketts while he's top of mind here. He did an interview on Saturday claiming, quote, the ball's in Jed's court.
Yeah, there's plenty of money. It's up to Jed to spend it.
Yeah, when it comes to how and where to put financial resources to work, Ricketts said. He said he's got a lot of flexibility, so we'll let him do it. Let him decide what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
He could sign a 38-year-old reliever, or he could get a utility infielder. It's up to him, really. I mean, we're not
right, exactly.
We're not making that call.
No, it's binary flexibility with those two options. I do appreciate that. Ricketts he starts right off by using a metaphor that is not from the sport he owns. He's already talking about, I guess I don't know if ball in your court came from basketball or tennis, but it's definitely not baseball, which I think is a fitting way for him to begin. And also it's just I think the question was will the money be there this offseason? Yeah. And it's just so many words to say no.
Yeah, a lot of no and a lot of another great line here where he says you can't buy a championship team in baseball. You have to build it, and that's what we're doing. And in order to build it,
actually, you could buy one, but go ahead.
Yeah, he says in order to build it, you've got to take, quote, years where you let young guys get at bats, give them a chance to prove themselves, and find out who you actually have to build around. And that's been what this year is all about, and it's a success. So a little contradiction from his pre-2022 season, saying that they were going to be competitive. He said, in fact, this year's been all about finding out who you can build around.
So let me ask this question to both of you. Looking at the position players, we'll get to the pitchers, but just position players on this team. And let's talk about the major league team, because that's the team that actually plays at Wrigley Field. Who this year made you say, that guy can play? This is the guy we want when we're competing for a divisional title and going deep into the playoffs. Who on this roster do you say, yep, that guy proved something to me this year?
So I think looking at if everyone's healthy, you can make the case for 4, I think.
Okay.
Right? Because I feel like I've heard a lot of, I feel like this season has broken the brains of some very good and thoughtful Cubs fans and people who follow the Cubs otherwise, just with how much it's like hammered the bar downward, like how much it's lowered the bar, how much talk I've heard about like, well, this guy could be a useful piece so frequently is like, we're talking about 100 guys who are the 13th position player on a good team, right? Like when you think about guys
I'm at 1.5, so I can't wait to hear your 4.
Yeah, no, I think 1.5 is like, I think that's probably more accurate. I think you can stretch up to 4, and that's if you're talking about Wilson Contreras still being on this team.
Yeah, I wasn't counting him. That's
right.
I wasn't counting him, and I wasn't counting Hap. But if I did, then I'd say 3.5. So basically, are we in agreement? Nico Hoerner showed that he can probably play at the major league level if he can maybe hopefully keep his batting average high, because his doesn't walk much or hit for power, but his defense is very good.
The defense was the surprise of this season, I'd say.
So Nico Hoerner and maybe Seiya Suzuki.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it, right? Because, I mean, you've seen Seiya's bat get hot again lately, which is good. It is weird.
I've seen it be cold. It's been hot, it's been cold, and it's been hot. So that's good. That's hot, but
it's he's the same age as Ian Happ, and that's sort of been Happ-esque in the past, right? Is those stretches up and down like that. And I get the offensive adjustment coming from Japan. That makes sense to me. It's weird that the defense is like worse than we were told.
Worst defensive war on the team.
Is that true?
Yes.
I feel like that shouldn't take an adjustment from a different league, like same size ball, whatever. So I think that's.
And
I'm told he played indoors a lot, and now he's playing outdoors, and that makes a difference. But that said, he's been outdoors now for 6 months.
Right.
So.
Yeah, he's gotten a lot of sun. Yeah, I think like I'm fine with optimistically counting Seiya in that you could have a starting 9 that is a playoff team with Seiya on the team. Nico, same, I think, but also as you pointed out, he's sort of got to keep his batting average high, and he very much surprised me with how well he held up defensively at short, and also, I mean, I guess I'd say the power surprised me because he hit. What are we on to home run number 8 now? I think.
And something like that.
I was gonna take the under on 5.5 between him and Madrigal coming into the year combined. So I mean, that has been a surprise. But like you say, he takes so few walks. I think it's you see people getting so excited about him, and I'm excited about him too. But the OPS is still under 800.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think you can count that, but if you're counting Contreras, Happ, and those 2, I think you can say as many as 4, but 4 is famously less than half of a field,
Yes.
So I mean,
so basically, you've got your 5, 6, 7, and 8 hitters. On a contending team.
Right. I think that's the thing too, is because we're not counting the most important spots in the lineup in all likelihood.
Yeah.
Through 100 games, Seiya Suzuki has hit 260 with 13 home runs, 22 doubles, 45 RBIs, and a 767 OPS for the Cubs.
Yeah. I mean, it's an adjustment year, right?
Yeah.
Coming from overseas in Japan. And so, I don't expect – we've seen this with a lot of players that come internationally. It's not, it's not crazy to expect this. But then again, he's also at an age where is he going to get better as he gets older? Is he going to be better as a 28-year-old than he is? Because he'll be 20, he just turned 28, I guess, right? So he's already 28. So next year he'll be 28 to start the season. Is he going to be a better player, or will he make enough adjustments to make up for it? So his on-base plus slugging percentage by month. So March, April, 934. Yay, MVP, Rookie of the Year. Remember that talk?
Player of the month for April. Yeah.
I remember Chris Morel getting that talk.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to him.
Yeah.
May, 617. Oof. July, 783. Okay, good job. August, 697. And now September, 896. So, the truth lie is probably somewhere in the middle, but hopefully a little bit higher than where he's going to finish up this year, I think, right? Especially if the defense isn't going to be super great. You'd like to see a little bit more average, maybe batting. I mean, what's he missing, really? The batting. Did you think he'd hit more home runs or just hit for a higher average? What are we missing? He's got 13 homers. He had 3 after the first 2 games, right? Or whatever the first weekend.
Right.
So
I think I'm maybe slightly, I don't even know if you'd call it bullish, but I would take the over on like a flat 800 OPS next year. I think I would bet on him exceeding that. And I do think there is a little more power there. We also saw that he does have a very good idea of the strike zone, but I know it's half anecdotal, but there was a point where objectively, I think it was by the strike zone umpires are judged on earlier. This was a couple months ago, but he had been called out on strikes on pitches outside the zone more than any other player as of like June.
Within the last week, he has been several times. It's super frustrating. It's like that Kyle Schwarber syndrome, right? It's like, wait a minute, the guy takes pitches and he is selective at the plate, and you penalize him for it. It really ticks me off.
Yeah, Soler dealt with that too. The Soler strike zone back in the day too. It's super frustrating. So it's like you hope that sort of progresses to the mean a little bit. You get a little more on base too, and I think I think he'll be fine. It's just weird to me where it's like you see the money spent on Seiya and the money that they won't spend on a Wilson, the money they won't spend on a Happ, the money they won't spend on other guys, and I'm not sure. I don't care what money's spent anywhere, just spend it all. But I don't know that it's going to be that the value is going to be proportional to how they valued him, I guess. But we'll see.
If he gets his OPS close to 800, I think then we're cooking with gas next year.
Yeah.
Right. That's a solid player, I think.
Yeah, and I think I feel I'm that is something I feel like pretty okay about happening.
Now, Chris Morel, who we all came to like very much early in his Cubs career, I'm going to give you his OPS by month, starting with when he came up in May, and you tell me what you think. 878, 815, 724, 575, and now we're in this month where he's around 700, but we'll see where he ends up. That was a brutal August for him. The 575, that's Darwin Barney type numbers.
Yeah. It's another guy who I guess positively surprised me most of the year. When they called him up, he was a guy who, you'd see the defensive highlight things coming up, but you'd also look at the stat line and be like, oh, this guy swings and misses all the time. And it just seems like one of those guys with pop, but is going to really struggle for contact. And he showed more than I thought he even had, and he is still pretty young. So I don't know. I think I feel how it seems to me is ultimately what the whole stat line says to this point is probably what he is. But
yeah,
I don't know. But he does have the physical skills, and
and he's also 23. Like he's actually young, unlike everybody else we've ever had. So Right. All of our other rookies tend to be around 30. So being 23 is a big advantage because he could probably get better. His defense has not been so hot the last 6 weeks or so either, though. Especially in the infield. That's problematic.
Yeah, especially when that's what, we're told his more natural position
or
positions are, right?
If you want to be a utility player, you actually have to be able to play the field typically too, right?
Right. It's sort of like Patrick Wisdom this year, where I feel like I read a lot of pieces about his value early, and it's not to say he doesn't have value, but the guy has the third most strikeouts in the league with, I believe, less at bats than the other two, and then I think he also has the most errors at third with less innings at third than a lot of guys. So
second worst defensive WAR on the team next to Suzuki.
Great.
So.
Well, with P-Wiz, you knew that when you got through the trade deadline and teams said, I can't use that bat anywhere as a utility or coming off the bench to pinch hit, I don't have a spot for that on a contending team. That's really where you knew where he stood, because they would have took anything for him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they looking at a guy like, and he pitched as we're recording this on Monday night. Michael Givens was pitching for the Mets tonight, and the Cubs got absolutely nothing for him, and that's a guy who has a little bit of value to a contender, So it was a surprise to see that, and I think Wisdom's got some value, but I mean, again, we're talking about, I think, stretching to be like, is that the 12th or 13th position player?
I was told by the blogosphere that maybe it was a good idea that he was not traded at the trade deadline, and it was a smart move by Jed. What a brilliant guy Jed is, because he still has more value to the Cubs than he would be to another team, which is always to me a scary thought, because that means that basically he's like a cheap plug-in guy that you'll put up with, but nobody else would. That never really struck me as a compliment.
No, and I think that's sort of along the lines of what I mean about seeing people's brains broken in the blogosphere and Twitterverse and all these things this year, where it's sad to watch people really talk themselves into great ideas, like players being great ideas who, God bless them, I wish them the best, but these are not, just by any measure, these are not players on a team that is what the Cubs level should be. And, I haven't seen people tweeting Schwindel's war versus Rizzo's war in a while, I feel like. But that was, what was your guys' favorite unhinged moment of Cubs Twitter this year? Was it that, the Schwindel's better than Rizzo run that we had? Was it the people making Alfonso Rivas to Mark Grace comparisons? Or was it people talking about why we shouldn't trade for Soto or Ohtani? Because I feel like there's been like 4 psychotic trends.
The hold on to Contreras, offer him the qualifying offer, and then get that 81st pick in the draft, and that's so much smarter than trading him. That was my favorite. But my other favorite was the preseason prediction that the Cubs would, but in March, I was told that the Cubs would be clearing away the favorites to win the division next year because of our farm system.
We felt very alone in the Cubs blogosphere, challenging those assessments early in spring training.
I think that as much as the farm system has shown progress at lower levels with people who I think could probably, hopefully, some of whom will come up and be really not just bit players but actually productive players. I think the biggest disappointment of the year was this top 2 guys that everybody was like, oh, they'll be in the team by June. Caleb Killian and Brendan Davis. Wow. Davis was bad, then he got hurt, and now he's in the minors, but basically lost a season. And Killian, I don't know what happened to that guy. He came to the majors and he just lost it. And he hasn't really I don't think he's fully recovered. So to me, that's a cautionary tale that things don't always work out perfectly with young players. And B, it's a concern that those were supposed to be key pieces who would be seasoned going into next year, right? Davis was going to be either the center fielder or something, and Killian was going to be the number 2 or 3 starter, probably 3 starter in most people's eyes, right? And I don't think either of those. I mean, they between the two of them, they've got 3 games of major league experience, and so that was when Ricketts says that this year was great for the development at the major league level. I think it's just the opposite. I think if you're looking at the young players, it's like, gee, not good. I mean, it's great that Ian Happ and Contreras had good years, but that only helps if they're going to be here.
Yeah, and we're allowed to, and the Cubs are allowed to keep them. They're allowed to, but it seems like I would love to be shocked, but they've just over and over shown us that for whatever reason they don't have an interest in the guys they have, or even like having a conversation with these guys. And I think what you say about those, the people who are sort of being like, well, yeah, Brennan will be raking by June. He was bad at the beginning of the year, and partially because he was already hurt, it seems like, and then had the surgery. And I think there's still a lot of great possibility for Brennan Davis, but I think we're also seeing so many fans just mentally promote these guys into stardom.
Yeah.
Even best case scenario, 2 and 3 years ahead of time. We're hearing people talk about PCA is going to handle center. I mean, when, my friends? Right. I hope so, but it's going to be a while. And how many years ago were we hearing people be like, well, you could trade Contreras because we got Miguel Amaya. Miguel Amaya doesn't even play catcher this year.
He just got hurt. He just got hurt, not playing catcher the other day. Jesus because Christ. He can't catch because of his arm, right?
Yeah, so. and that sucks. But when was the last time Miguel Amaya had a healthy year? I mean, it was pre-2020, I want to say. But
the last time Braylon Marcus threw a pitch, and he's like our number 2 starter.
Man, I think would have been, right? I think Braylon Marquez is Mandela effect. I'm not sure he actually ever existed. I think it's like Shazam the movie or whatever. It's like those Mandela effect things that is just in the consciousness of America for some reason we decide exists, and then you check the records. It's like actually there never was a Braylon Marquez.
I had a dream that in the last game against the White Sox of the COVID year. He came in and struck 2 guys out and looked great, and then gave up 5 runs, and we almost blew the game, but we ended up winning anyway, and I haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the point. Those are the guys, Marquez, Miguel Amaya, Davis, and Killian, who in an ideal world would have been all contributors this year, going through their rookie struggles, as all rookies do. But those would have been the core guys, along with Suzuki and along with Horner, who next year you'd say, this is and Justin Steele, right? And guys like that. This is the core that's going to take us into next year. And, didn't really work out for very many of them. So we're left with Justin Steele, who had a fine season, it's nice to see.
Totally.
Keegan Thompson, who had who may not be a starter, but who certainly has a role on a pitching staff, right? And even Brandon Hughes, I think, has impressed this year out of the bullpen. So, you've got 3 young pitchers that have shown some progress, and then you've got a bunch of other young guys who I don't think have really pitched enough to really make a call on, right? But that's good progress, but it's not. You can't gut the entire team of veterans, and then just have a couple young guys be okay, and then say, well, so now we're somehow extrapolating this to competitive level. That's why, they have to go out, as I'm sure Ricketts is going to really pound into Hoyer over the offseason. I'm sure he's going to say, look, Jed, you got to go out and get some free agents to really beef up this team.
That doesn't sound like the Ricketts I know.
but if that happens, and then you kind of hope that the young minor league players kind of trickle up at some point, but knowing full well that there's no guaranteed timeline for that. So, it's a lost season is how I kind of see it, at least at the major league level.
Another one. That's also the
2 in a row.
It's 2 in a row.
Get the DJ Khaled hit on the soundboard for that. Just another one. Another. It's like and in terms of Ricketts saying we found out about a lot of guys. It's and I'm not even trying to say this.
We found out that they're not major caliber, right? Like, I mean, speaking of breaking brains, Hermosia, remember that? That was going to be, he was going to be a star. I mean, I think we got a lot of reality checks from a lot of guys this year, which I think was probably necessary, but also a bit discouraging, I think, in the long run. I mean, you know, the Nelson Velasquez, he was going to be a star. His defense is bad, and he's not hitting. Okay, well,
yeah, and his defense has been he's been played out of position in center, obviously too. It's like he's not a center fielder. Sure. He's a corner. You can put him in a corner, and it'll probably be roughly okay defensively. And you know, this is also when you're talking. Do not. Please do put Nelson in a corner. It is like, but I mean, he's a guy who he might, you know, there might be a little something there, but I don't think you're counting on it being a starter on a contender. But also there's, you know, with all these minor leaguers, we talk about Justin Steele being such a good positive development this year. Like that guy might be in a starting rotation for a good team. It's possible.
Absolutely.
But it took a while. It takes a while. He was, you know, he came up in the bullpen 2 years ago a little bit. And then last year was the half and half. And then this year it settled in. That's how long it takes for most guys. So when I remember these things too, when people were saying, yeah, we're going to be ready to go. We're contending. We're for the division championship because of our probably 10th out of 30 rated farm system.
Yeah.
This year, it's like that's not realistically how this works. Those guys are going to take a while to settle in, and hopefully enough do. But you have to.
Maybe Zach McKinstry will settle in and start hitting. He's over 200.
There we go. Hey, he's had a hot couple of days. He's had you know, his OPS over the last 2 days is incredible.
I think what we found out this season is the Cubs have a half a dozen or more cost-controlled, team-controlled David Botes.
Yeah,
I mean that's about where we're at now. You know, David Bote for when he was decent, right? Like, you know, when he was considered a utility guy who, you know, you liked having on your team. I mean, they've got quite a few guys who could fill out a bench right now. In fact, they could probably fill out an entire bench with the guys they have.
It's all bench,
so
baby.
We don't need any more bench players. You know,
right? Well, and I think like Chris Morel is a perfect example of a guy who, like, that seems like someone who, as you said, only 23. He's got skill. He seems like a guy everybody loves. That could be a guy who is bouncing around on the bench a couple starts a week on a good team. Cool, that's good. They just can't all be dudes that are on the bench, you know.
What about Nick Madrigal, by the way? Speaking of lost seasons,
man, what do you guys think? What's your Madrigal take?
So Nick Madrigal was placed on the IL again when they activated Patrick Wisdom. That so this time it was right groin tightness, and he had he's played 59 games this season due to all of his IL stints. He was on the IL for a lower back and for a left groin strain earlier. So full groin has been...
he's gone full groin, folks.
He's gone full groin, and he's only played 59 games at 25 years old. I've seen enough of the Madrigal experience that he's not a guy. You can't...
Here's what I'd say about his hit profile, because his defense has actually been better than anticipated, but his hit profile is basically like Nico Horner with a lower batting average and less power.
I mean, it's
which doesn't leave you much, by the way.
No, I looked it up the other day. He's a lighter hitting Jose Macias, I think is
there you go.
It is, you know, I mean, he has a Greinke-esque bat, I think. But I'm not sure Zach Greinke doesn't have more power, you know? And I mean, in complete sincerity. So it's a bummer because I mean, I remember him being at Oregon State and being like, oh, this guy seems cool, like a little, you know, he was stealing bases and stuff back then, college stolen bases. But, you know, it seemed like maybe a fun, weird throwback leadoff hitter type. But now I just don't see how you support a guy like that in a starting 9 on a good team. I mean, I guess he's your 9 hitter if you have like a lot of power elsewhere, but I don't see how that profiles as a starting role.
In 228 plate appearances, he has 7 doubles, 0 triples, and 0 homers. That's not enough.
No, you really would have hoped he would have snuck a triple in there somewhere.
That's a slugging percentage of 282, I might add, right? Like, that's a slugging percentage that's below what we thought his batting average would be.
Yeah. He's a guy, like you said about Nico a little bit, where to really have positive offensive contribution, Nico has to hit like what, minimum 290, probably like close to 300. Like, no exaggeration, Madrigal's got to hit like 315, I think, like 315, 320. And I mean, if you do that every year, okay, I guess you can be like, you know, some weird 1920s style ball player, you know.
You throw in a homer to maybe a stolen base out of 3 attempts, and you know, a handful of doubles and triples. But will he be benefited from the new rules, which we're about to get into? I don't know.
I mean, he probably will benefit from it.
Can he just pop it over people's heads for like little snort dinks or whatever they snort dunks? What do they call those things?
Well, I mean, didn't he pull a snort dink? He pulled both his left and right snort dink.
A full snort dink, yeah.
Duck snorts.
Duck snorts.
That's the word.
Duck snorts.
Yeah. Now, while maybe we won't see Nick Madrigal in 2023, what we will see are new rules in Major League Baseball. New rules in 2023, starting with, and I want to get your guys' take on these rules. Let's start with the pitch timer. So this is an effort to increase, get a quicker pace of play. There will be a 30-second timer between batters. Between pitches, there will be a 15-second timer when the bases are empty, a 20-second timer when there's runners on base. Any controversy for you guys? Kevin, we'll start with you on the pitch clock.
I think it's like a touch shorter than I thought it was going to be, but for the most part, I'm all in on it. Anything that keeps Pedro Baez out of baseball, I think is great.
Yes.
It's been my least favorite pitcher to watch in history, I think. But yeah, I mean, I feel for our friend Yu Darvish, who sure takes all that time when he's going well. But I think I'm just all in on that. I'm in favor of it.
I think Steve Traxel would probably not share your opinion.
No. Once again, Steve Traxel and I got beef.
That's I do like that the penalty is that pitchers who violate the timers, they're charged with an automatic ball, and batters who violate the timer are charged with an automatic strike. So there's actual teeth to this.
Remember the Cleveland team before they were the Guardians? They had a guy named like Mike Hargrove. I think he was a manager later on. They called him the human rain delay. Yeah, he would not have liked that. He was always bouncing out of the, checking his I don't know, sweatbands or whatever they wore back then, and before batting gloves, and messing around.
There's also a change.
Out, putting new tar.
Yeah, and that's a change for the batters too, because batters must be in the box and ready for a pitch by the 8-second mark. Otherwise, they'll be charged the automatic strike. So they've got to be in the box, no messing around there. So
it's interesting. It's more. I mean, it's more aggressive than I thought they were going to be, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. I'm theoretically into it. I guess we'll see, but I kind of don't mind. Yeah.
If the result is shorter games, if you're actually going to shave like 20 minutes off of game time, I'm in on that. That'd be great.
I'd be more supportive of this rule if it also meant that you had robo umpires calling balls and strikes.
Yeah, not yet. That to
me is a bigger issue.
Did not come up for vote yet.
Speaking for Suzuki here,
yes. Right. As Seiya Suzuki's representative, it's time to, it's robot time, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, that we love here on the podcast is the robo-umps. We'll, when that does pass, we will have Harry Pavlidis back on the show to deep dive the robo-umps with us again.
Well, then Contreras' value will go up, right? Because
yes, because pitch framing leaves the game as something that is an attribute. Yeah. The other rule, this one's definitely more controversial. Defensive shift limits. So basically they've eliminated the shift, by having the new rule that defensive teams must have a minimum of 4 players on the infield and 2 infielders completely on either side of second base. And an added twist in the rule, infielders may not switch sides. So a team cannot they cannot replace their best defender. They can't move if their shortstop is their best defender, they can't move them to where second base would play.
Second to short based on whether it's a left-handed or right-handed hitter. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's another twist on that rule. And if you break that rule, the offense can choose an automatic ball or the result of the play. So it's almost like a free play. If you get
that is football stuff.
Yep.
That is football. I did not know the thing about the players can't switch. I'm against that. I think you should be able to, if you're having the illegal defense set up, whatever, I guess. I think it's one of those things where, in principle, I disagree with this, but I also absolutely hate looking at the shift. so like, I hate looking at it. In principle, I think you should be able to do it, even though I personally don't like it. But I do think you should be able to like flip your fielders around wherever. We're going to get some like Bobby Valentine wearing a mustache stuff where they're going to have like, no, I'm Nick Madrigal. Look at how tiny I am now. Like just pretending to be each other in different positions.
Do you think that in addition to that, the positioning, I think that's all part of that, right? Like the fielders have to be on the dirt. And the dirt has to be like 93 to 95 feet from home plate or whatever. So you can't have guys playing in the outfield.
Correct.
Which I think if you're Kyle Schwarber or Familia Reyes or, Anthony Rizzo, that's got to be a delight to think of,
absolutely.
Right? You can't get thrown out from right field all the time by a second baseman or a shortstop or whoever's out there.
Correct. And you cannot have a 4 outfielder alignment either. So that's also banned as part of this. So you can't get around it by putting the guy in the outfield either. So,
dude, Ted Williams is going to unfreeze his head and come back and hit 580. It's, it's one of those things where it's like I think I'm going to like the result, but I think I principally disagree with it. What do you guys feel about it,
Pat?
Well, I would agree with you that I don't like it in principle, but I think I'm going to like it in practice more. Look, I've seen stats that say that in the minor leagues where they've tried this out before, it hasn't really increased batting averages or on-base percentages. But I tend to wonder if that won't be the case in the major leagues, because when you look at the stats on the shift, they actually do prevent hits. That's why they do it.
Very much so.
Because they think it's a good idea.
Right.
And so I think anything to try to get some singles maybe back in the game isn't a bad thing, because we really have, in an era of 99-mile-an-hour sliders, it really is difficult. And the boomer bust home run or strikeout thing, when you're at a game, it does get a little bit redundant, and you like to see some action on the bases. That's all. And maybe you'll have some stolen bases. It could open things up in a weird way. Like we don't know what the dynamics are going to be of. Okay, well now with the pitcher with the pitch clock, you can start timing the pitch clock if you're a runner, right? And you can be a runner because there won't be a shift that will force you to ground out to right field. So if you're Anthony Rizzo, those are hits now, and now you can use your moxie to steal second base. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah. God, remember that Rizzo 16 stolen base year? That was
sure did. Yeah,
it was. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And last, in the same vein of increasing stolen bases potentially, is bigger bases. The bases traditionally 15 inches square instead will be 18 inches square. Home plate remains unchanged. Of course, they say that the primary goal of this change is to give players to have more room to operate and avoid collisions. This is obviously a safety ploy, just like the additional seats where the bullpens used to be. That was for safety, not for money. So that's what this is. So you have bigger bases. So there's if there's an extra couple inches there, and you see stolen bases getting thrown out by, a quarter of an inch, a half an inch, that's a difference.
Oh, absolutely. Do we know, are the bases also going to be taller? I just need to know if Nick Madrigal is going to be able to climb up onto one still. Because if they're any bigger, I'm not sure he can do it.
I do look forward to seeing that. That is hilarious.
They're not going to have the safety base at first like they do in 16-inch softball, where it's white on one side and orange on the other, and then the base runner has their base to rush, and then the first baseman gets their own bag to hold on to. I always thought those were fun.
Yeah,
those are fun. It's a participation trophy culture, dude. Everyone gets their own base. You get.
Are we missing a rule? Isn't there another rule out there?
It's the pickoff moves, right?
Yes, the pickoff moves. Yeah.
Unless that's not confirmed.
That is part. No, pitchers are limited to 2 disengagements. So a pickoff attempt or a step off of the rubber per plate appearance. So you're only allowed 2 per plate appearance.
Gosh.
The limit is reset if a runner advances during the plate appearance. So if you gave up a stolen base.
I don't like that rule. I think that's tough, right? So if you have a fast runner, which the Cubs, of course,
I wonder what that's like. That must be awesome.
Yeah. I remember
where's Terrence Gore when you need him?
Right.
If you have a fast runner, you can you make the first pickoff attempt, fine, but then you really can't make the second one, because if you do and you don't get him, then he can just walk to second base.
Yeah, it's right? Are you allowed to throw to second? In that case, if he's running and you've used your pickoff moves, can you throw to second then? And
it's like the John Lester rule or something here. This is
right. I think I understand that it comes from, it sucks to watch a guy throw to first over and over. Yeah, that sucks. But also, this feels like a rule that was made up by someone who just went to their first baseball game, where they're like, that's bad, don't do it. And they didn't think any farther than that. Because
I'd rather have like a maximum lead or something instead. I don't know. Than that. I don't know. That's tricky.
You can also reset it with a mound visit. So
great.
If you spend one of your mound visits, you get 5 of those or whatever. If you spend one of your mound visits,
give me all 5 mound visits and 10 pickoff throws on Terrence Gore. Just let's really get the pace of play up with that rule.
So there's some winners, some the jury's out on, and some that are head scratchers. So that's a lot of.
The Cubs are the losers on this one, from what I can tell. Just looking at the Cubs, other than Nico Horner, and he's got 18 stolen bases this year, maybe. Yeah. And the Cubs have been super aggressive stealing bases as compared to the last several years, right?
Yeah.
They've got 93, which for them is a lot. Their number 2 base stealer, though, is Rafael Ortega, who the last I checked will be like 18th among positional players next year. So I don't know how many they're going to carry, but I doubt it'll be.
I think he was my prediction at the beginning of the season for leading the team in stolen bases.
Yeah, he's another guy, by the way, who they were brilliant not to trade at the deadline.
Smart.
Because he's 31. And then after that, though, then it's like Burrell's got 9, Suzuki's got 8, Ian Happ's got 8. And then that's really it. This doesn't strike me as a pro Cubs rule change. I don't know about all these guys in the minors who are going to come up. They're young, right? So they should be faster than when they're old. But I don't know if they're if we're going to get the bang for our buck.
No, I think like Brennan Davis is a guy who's extremely athletic, but I think that's a 10 stolen base kind of guy. I think, if a PCA is a guy who has stolen base ability, but again, he's a couple years away probably.
Yeah.
So it's
even guys who have them, like a Morel, has stolen 9 bases, but he's been caught 6 times too. So it's not.
Oh yeah. Ortega's been caught a million times. Yeah.
Ortega has 12 steals. He's been caught 7 times, picked off another 8, I think. So yeah, the Cubs are definitely not advantaged by that. Maybe they will be by the shift. I guess everybody will be to an extent, but if Ramil Reyes is still there next year, that'll help him for sure. Mm-hmm. And also, not just the shift, but I think underrated part of this is that the players have to play on the actual infield on the dirt, because some of these guys hit the ball really hard, and it's hard to get angles on balls that are hit at 110 miles an hour. Yeah. It's much easier to do it when you're in the outfield.
Right.
And so I think we're going to see some guys who just make a lot of hard contact finally get the hits that, frankly, I kind of feel like they're due. Like, there's nothing more frustrating than hearing on the StatCast, oh, he hit that one 108 miles off the bat. That had a 99.8% probability of being a hit, but it was caught, 300 feet away by the second baseman who's playing in the middle of right field. Oh, well.
Yeah. Friggin' David Bodie velocity ball right into the dirt in front of the plate. All those 111s into your front foot, basically.
I expect us to look back at the pace of play numbers and see that all of the time saved with the pitch clock is now spent on the new offense that's being produced and the new singles that have been added to the game now. So
that would be interesting. Yeah.
I've got 2 more questions for you, Kevin. Then we'll let you go here. Thanks again for jumping on here. I know you've been to a few games in person this year. You're out in New York. Were you at the Yankees Derek Jeter ceremony game?
I was, yeah. I was at that, and I've just almost never seen a more embarrassing group of fans than I saw at that game. It's the Jeter game. Quick question before I talk about that. Is this a explicit podcast? Is this a family friendly? How do you guys do it?
It's anything. This is a family friendly, but
okay.
You can ride the line. Yeah.
No, I will. Yes, I will. I can work a network clean. That's fine. These people had a day where they were celebrating their actual god. They were Derek Jeter came out. They had, before the game, Jorge Posada came out. Mariano was there. Torrey was there.
Throwing up in my mouth right now, by the way.
Yeah,
go ahead.
See, they're all there, and they're getting to celebrate their literal god. Someone mentions the word Steinbrenner, everyone starts booing, and I'm just like, what do you guys want out of an owner here? Also, can you not take a minute off? And Derek, to his credit, in the speech when he thanked the Steinbrenners and they booed, he said, you guys better start cheering. Like, you should be, and then, my dad lives in New York. He always has. And he got these very good tickets from some doctor he represented. So we were in the 5th row behind first base. And the Yankees have almost blown the division lead to the Rays at this point. This game's against the Rays. They were up 2, and all 5 rows in front of us were completely empty in the 8th inning. And it was just like a completely disgusting display of garbage fandom from these Yankees fans. So, I have a friend who has season tickets, who's a good fan, but he's a Yankee fan who has season tickets, and he says the Yankees are the 3rd worst fan base in baseball, and I think he's right.
Are the Phillies on that list or no?
He had the Cardinals and Red Sox is what he put ahead. There's some good ones, the Astros and Phillies. I think you can throw in there too, but yeah.
Derek Jeter is demonstrably a worse offensive player than Anthony Rizzo for his career. I just wanted to get that out there.
I love that. Yeah.
If you just look at his OPS pluses, his best season was comparable to Rizzo's best season. And after that, Rizzo's 5 next best seasons are comparable to Jeter's 2nd best season. It's not even close.
And Rizzo's a genuine Gold Glover at his position too. But yeah.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot that Jeter won Gold Gloves. Yeah, with negative WARs, defensive WARs.
Incredible job.
Yeah.
And got a ceremony at Wrigley Field as well.
Did he give gift baskets out to the media too?
Yeah. I'm sure some media person got a gift basket.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah. There's no way some TMZ associate producer didn't get a gift basket.
His defense after his 2nd season was his defensive WAR was negative 9.4. But after those two what I call the pinnacle seasons where he was at 0.8 and 1.1, after that he was like minus 11 something. I mean, the rest of the way it's just really ugly.
Yeah. Well, he got a big speech on the day I was there. I didn't even know it was happening that day. It was just the day my dad had tickets for, and
lucky you.
Big fans.
Yeah.
All right, last question for me, then we'll let you go, and it is not baseball related. The question is, are you going to be at Arthur Ashe Stadium for AEW's return for Dynamite?
Not only am I going to be there, it is my wedding anniversary.
Oh, congrats.
So my wife and I will be there.
Oh, that's great.
So with a couple friends of ours. So yeah, we'll be there. I was actually at All Out with my brother too.
I was there as well. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
John Moxley came out, stopped right in front of us, and was standing there taunting the crowd. That was directly in front of me. So I'm on camera for that one. That was
that's
amazing.
Great.
Yeah, just a great time, great show. I'm jealous. The Arthur Ashe show will be fantastic as well. So you'll actually get to see the Acclaimed win.
I'm really hoping for that. Yes.
I don't know what any of those words you guys are speaking mean, but the Bears,
the Bears also nice.
Yes. And now I imagine if you wanted to, I don't know if you watch Bears games, but if you wanted to, you could probably watch those from your house now, right? Whereas when I lived in New York, I had to go to Boomers on the Upper West Side in order to see a game, because back in the olden days, 20 years ago, you didn't have all the games on all the bars. You had to go to special bars that would show all the games.
Oh yeah, there's Overlook in the 40s, in the East 40s is one Bears bar. And then there's one, I forget what it was, but down in the NYU area that I used to go to. But yeah, now I actually I illegally stream it through a Discord channel is what I do for the and hook it up to my TV. So that's what I do. I am 40 years old. I am not paying for the direct TV thing. But yeah, I was able to watch it through some channels,
Well,
and you're a comedian, so you're kidding when you say that you're doing it illegally.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good joke.
Oh yeah, big joke. Don't come for me. Yeah.
You kids at home, don't try this.
Yeah. Right.
Kevin, thanks again for joining us. Please remind all of our listeners where they can find your work on the internet.
You can find me at Kevin McCaff. That's Kevin MCCAFF, and that's on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram. I post stand-up videos at all those places, and specifically on Instagram, I post my upcoming dates. So I'm mostly in New York this month, a little bit in Pennsylvania. In the coming months, I'm going to be in Massachusetts, going to be in Oklahoma, going to be, I'm sure, back in Chicagoland at some point. But if you want to see me, follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm posting dates and videos there.
Excellent. And you can follow us on Twitter as well, at Wrigleyville Nat. Same for Instagram. And go ahead and support us via our Patreon if you can. We're almost done with our 4th season of being completely ad-free because of our generous patrons over at patreon.com/Wrigleyville Nation. So please thank you for helping us keep the lights on, and every single penny goes right back into the show. So hopefully we can do our 10th season next season here also ad-free. So continue to support the show there. And WrigleyvilleNation.com, that's the website where you can get all the links to subscribe to this podcast. We're available anywhere these are found, anywhere podcasts are found. And make sure that you tell your Cubs fan friends about the podcast. Use your word of mouth. Cubs fans know other Cub fans, so make sure you tell them about the show and show them how to subscribe to the podcast. And that's another way you can support us as we round out a couple more weeks here, a couple more episodes, and then we are done with season number 9 for us, Pat.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of Cubs, yeah. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. Pat, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.